I'm going to call the Finance Committee meeting to order Wednesday, August 12th, just a couple minutes early at 8:22. First item on the agenda is receipt of reports. Accounts paid report for the period ending June 2026. Any questions or comments from commissioners on that report? All those in favor of the receipt of the report, say aye.
Aye.
Second, executive summary financial report for the period ending June 2026. Questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor of the receipt of that report, say aye.
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 Our Township Finance Officer has attached to the agenda the July 2026. This is Melvin Pitts. I didn't see Melvin. Is he here?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
There we
Okay.
go.
Good evening. How are you, Melvin?
Hey, I'm doing well, and yourself?
Okay. Um, Anything you'd like to add to your report?
Nothing additional is all there. Any
Okay.
questions? Feel free.
It looks like things are pretty well on target as far as receipt of our revenues, um, halfway through the year anyway. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Not seeing any. All those in favor of receiving the finance officer report, say aye.
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 Thank you. Information technology, always a lengthy list of what Mr. Rubin is doing. This was July 2026. Mike, anything you'd like to add to your report?
Nope, nothing to add, Commissioner. Happy to answer any questions, and I did include June in this report as well. So,
Oh, you included June. Okay. Questions or comments on the information technology? Always a lot going on with information technology, particularly with the police. Um, these days I'll have to better understand all the work that's involved over there, but you're keeping them up and running and helping them.
yep, if you'd ever like to come fix a police car, I'll be more than happy to have you come along there, Commissioner.
All the equipment in each of the cars.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
that makes sense.
each police car has a modem, computers, lots of
Oh,
wiring and whatnot. So a lot of technology in each and every single one of them. Yep,
oh,
including
okay.
the police department itself. So
All very important stuff. So thank you for doing that and keeping it up and running.
no problem.
Again, questions or comments for information technology? Not seeing any. I'll call for receipt of the report. All those in favor say aye.
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 Uh, Old business. Janice Salerno and her department are always working hard. Anybody have any? Yes, Commissioner Arman has an old business question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Salerno, I was hoping you could give the public, as you've done for the board, an update on our banking situation, particularly with respect to Citizens Bank.
Yes. So the manager and I were at Citizens Bank today. We wired out all of the money from both of our accounts at Citizens Bank. The balances are currently at zero. And our government specialist, which is a unit of Citizens Bank, will be closing those accounts tomorrow once they know that those wires are officially cleared.
And that will be the end of our relationship with Citizens Bank, correct?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for that update.
Yeah, thank you very much for all the work that was involved in doing that. I know there are a lot of people in the community who have been following that and anxious to hear the good news that you just reported. So again, thank you. Uh, uh, Janice, I'm going to also ask if you can give us an update on the budget planning process. Perhaps it's a bit early, but I think we
No?
get started now. Perhaps even last month it got started. So.
It did. So I've worked with all the departments already on entering their expense budgets into OpenGov. All departments have entered their expense budgets into OpenGov at this point in time. And over the next 2 weeks, we're going to be working on entering all of our revenue. And then the following 2 weeks, we're working on just putting it all together, understanding what needs we have, if we need any tax increases, what they will be, so that we can then work with the manager on what the expectations are, build a presentation for our public budget meetings, which are going to be held on 9/29 from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., October 6th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., and October 28th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then on our November 11th Finance Committee meeting, we can talk about the budget, which would hopefully get approved on our November 18th Board of Commissioners meeting.
Thank you for that update. And I don't want to speak for you, but could you perhaps also just comment on what I assume is the increased efficiency from the use of OpenGov?
So, I mean, our department has certainly shrunk since we've been using OpenGov. We're down 2 FTEs. We've taken on additional work. So the technology has definitely improved. The reporting has definitely improved. We actually have our reporting on the website now for our executive finance reports. So transparency has improved, efficiency has improved. Our audits should hopefully be a lot smoother. All of our information is saved right there in the system. So we have access to everything. We have all of our grant funding lined up with the grant expenses. So there's a number of improvements since we've had OpenGov.
And each of the departments is currently using OpenGov, as you commented, for entering the budget information. So that's all up and running smoothly.
Yes, yes.
That all sounds excellent. Thank you to you and your team for the work that you're doing, and we look forward to those budget meetings. They're always packed with a lot of good information.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Anybody have any? Let's see. We're on. Anybody have any further questions for Ms. Salerno? Okay. Not seeing any other old business. We're going into new business, and happy to welcome our CPAs, my fellow CPAs here. Give them special recognition. The presentation on the 2023 audit and financial report by Zelenkowski and Axelrod. So Tim Mira and Matt Beinhauer, I believe that you have a presentation. If you could introduce yourselves and bring on the presentation.
Yes, Dan, thanks for the introduction. My name is Tim Mira. I'm the partner on the engagement. Matt Beinhauer is the supervisor. He's also with me this evening, the supervisor on the engagement. We do have a presentation to touch high level on the results of the 2023 audit. Matt, if you want to pull that up, we can.
Sure. And there we go. Can everybody see that?
All right, it's coming on. Now we can.
And okay, good to go.
All right. You may just want to. Well, we can see the whole screen now. There you go, Matt. Yep. So as I mentioned, we're here to talk about the township's 2023 financial statements that we issued back in June. We performed our audit under the auditing standard generally accepted in the United States of America. We express an unmodified opinion on the township's financial statements. What that essentially means is that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. As part of our audit each year, and we'll do this for 24 and 25 as we work through the next 6 months of the year, I guess at this point, 4.5 or 3.5 months. We are required to assess the internal controls of the township. Had we identified any deficiencies in the internal controls, we would be issuing a management letter to you guys. We would have informed you guys up front as well, but we did not identify any internal controls in management's process, so there is no management letter comment as issued as part of the audit. Next slide, Matt. Some other required communications as part of the 2023 audit. There were no difficulties encountered in actually performing the audit. I mean, there was some difficulties in getting the information just given the turn in management. But once Janice kind of got in and got the experience under her belt and kind of got, everything set, then everything moved pretty well. There were no disagreements with management. There were no management representations had been obtained before we issued the report. There are no management consultations with other accountants to our knowledge, and there were no other audit issues to note. I'll now hand it off to Matt to touch on some financial results coming out of the audit.
Thanks, Tim. So we're just going to cover some high-level financial results, starting with the governmental activities. And again, this is for the audit of the year 2023. And keep in mind with the governmental activities, like we start with a negative 60.8 million in net position, but that's heavily influenced by the net pension liability and the OPEB liabilities and the related deferred inflows. They don't get reported at the fund level, so the fund level kind of, what you budget for paints a clearer picture. But that being said, these are the results for governmental activities, which include the pension and OPEB. So there was a negative 60.8 million net position for governmental activities. It was an increase of 12.1 million from the prior year. Of that, 24.8 million is invested in capital assets. 6 million was restricted, and the unrestricted piece was negative 91.6 million. So the total assets and deferred inflows were 92.1 million, and that is opposed to 105.9 million the previous year. And the liabilities combined with the inflows were 152.9 million, which is opposed to 174.3 million in the prior year. So the business type activities, which for Cheltenham is really just the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. The Stormwater Fund had a net position of 3.9 million, which increased 1.9 million from the prior year. 1.6 million was invested in capital assets and 2.3 million was restricted. So the total assets and deferred outflows for the Stormwater Fund were 4.9 million, up from 2.3 million in 2022. And the liabilities and deferred inflows were 0.9 million, and those were 1.1 million in the prior year. So as I said, the governmental funds, these are what don't include fixed assets, debt, pension, OPEB, things that get reported government-wide. So for the governmental funds in total, they had a fund balance of 17.1 million, which was a decrease of 460,000 from 22. Of that 17.1, 610,000 was non-spendable, 4.2 million was restricted, and 12.3 million was unassigned. So the assets and deferred outflows were 26.7 million at fund level, which is opposed to 28.9 million the prior year. And the liabilities and deferred inflows, those were 9.6 million, opposed to 9.5 the year before. So the most important fund of all those governmental funds is the general fund. So the general fund had a $12.9 million fund balance. It did decrease 1.8 from the prior year, with 610,000 being non-spendable and 12.3 million being unassigned. So general funds assets and deferred outflows were 22.3 million, down from 24.4 in 22. And the total liabilities and deferred inflows were 9.5 million. Which were 7.9 in 2022. So just some things to note, some new accounting pronouncements that were adopted in the financial statements. And again, this was for 23. We adopted GASBs 94, 96, and 99. None of those GASBs had any impact on the financial statements. We assessed the components of those GASBs and what impact they may have, and it was determined that they did not affect the financial statements. And here we just have a listing of all the GASBs that are pending for future years. You can see some of them are applicable for each year, the first two being for 24, and then we hit 25, and the last three will be implemented in the 2026 financial statements. As these become applicable, we'll assess them. We'll work with Janice and the team about implementing and what may or may not need to change for any of these standards. That's really it. We'd like to thank Janice for helping us bring this home, and I think we're all anxious to get moving on the 24 and 25 audits as well. So if anybody has any questions, I think we can open up to that now.
Any commissioners have any questions? I want to just make one or two comments. The full 62-page report, it's available to the public. The fact that we have a CPA audit each year, it's fully transparent, open. The township is audited, and that should certainly give everyone comfort that we're following all the rules and regulations. Uh, we it's necessary to note this is the 23 audit. There's a big thank you to Miss Salerno and her team. We recognize we've been behind. She's been doing a great job helping us catch up. This 23 audit is now done. We expect the 24 audit. Actually, it's already the work is well along. So we actually expect that to be done in the next couple of months. And then the 25 audit will follow that. We're working very hard. She and her department are working very hard in getting us caught up so that we're not behind in having these audits done. So my thanks to Zelenkovsky and Axelrod for the presentation and their cooperation with Cheltenham. Any questions? Okay. Then do we actually, I don't think we actually have to vote on accepting the audit. No. Okay, then I'm going to move on to new business. The Mott Community Center bid update. Second item on new business. That's attached. Who, Drew, is your team going to be presenting that?
I'll take that.
I think Allison's gonna take the
Okay,
lead.
I'm sorry. You
Yep.
popped up there all of a sudden. I thought you were.
We're here.
talk.
We're here for backup. We're
Township
here.
Manager Elliott, take it away.
Yeah. Well, we're really excited to begin the next chapter of this project. The information was hot off the presses when we prepared the agenda packet last week. So basically, it is a synopsis of the bid opening, which we opened on Thursday. And we received multiple bidders for each of the separate contractors. This is a multi-prime contract due to the fact that it is such a large project and it's a facilities project. So we have general contracting, plumbing, mechanical, and electrical bids to present this evening. And like I said, we had multiple bids in each of the contracts. So over the past few days, we have taken the opportunity to review the bids and take a look at them and feel comfortable recommending the lowest bidders for each of the contracts. We are still doing some due diligence and we just need to confirm that before next week's meeting, but I am prepared to make a staff recommendation. And of course, we have Drew Levine from Revision, Eric Gianell from KCBA. I want to thank them for all the hard work they and their teams have put into this project so far. We still have a lot of work to do, but also the township staff that have been part of it. So I will provide the recommendations under each of the contracts and be happy to answer any questions along with Drew and Eric and anybody else on the team. So under the general contract, the low apparent bidder is Urig. Their base bid is $5,543,000, and we are recommending to deduct $26,710 for the upper cabinets in the kitchenette in the auditorium. So that would bring the contract to $5,516,290. Under the mechanical contract, the low apparent bidder is Clipper Pipe with their bid of $1,007,000. Under the plumbing contract, the low apparent bidder is Guy M. Cooper, $753,500. And under the electrical contract, the low apparent bidder is BSI with a bid contract of $529,395. which brings the total contract with the one deduct to $8,806,185. So we are happy to answer any questions along the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Arman, question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Manager Elliott, first of all, Mr. Levine and Mr. Gianelli, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for all your continual good work on this project and others throughout the township. Manager Elliott, the number 8.8 million, can you just give us a reminder, at least, if not clarification, as to how that fits with what our estimates were, what our funding is, and if there's a delta there, can you explain what that is and how we intend to address it?
Absolutely. I'll start out and say that we did put money in our capital budget last year. I think we were estimating about $7.5 million based on the previous estimate from, I believe it was February of 2025, before we really got into the detailed estimate. So knowing that we're at a good time in the budget season, so we'll be able to have a much more precise budget going forward. There has been a number of things going through the design process that have altered the bid number and the estimate prior to going to bid. And it was actually very, very close to what the team had estimated the project cost to be. But I'll turn it over to Eric and Drew so they can talk about the market conditions and some of the things that went into the estimate and the final cost.
Drew, you're muted.
Got it. Yeah, thanks, Allison. And I'll just do a quick overview on the cost estimating methodology that was used in the project. And, the design team, throughout the project was doing intermittent cost estimates to understand how costs were changing based on different aspects of the project that were changing. And so the latest cost estimate that we did, which was in, I think, Allison, it was like February 2026, actually. That was like our final one. We were at around 8.4, 8.5 million at that time. And so we had seen some increases over the course of the design phase of the project. Part of this had to do with some additional scope that was pushed into the project. The most significant of which was the reconstruction of the entry ramp and stairs. And so that was something that we did to increase the accessibility components of the project. We also, as we engaged the township engineer to evaluate the stormwater management implications of the project and how it related to the site, that also contributed to those increases in the project cost. But I think that, we were looking at 8.5, or 8.4, 8.5 in our cost estimates. And so, being at, the numbers that Allison was mentioning in that 8.8 range, that's pretty close in our market right now, which, we are experiencing volatility in the market, with material costs and oil costs all over the place. Eric, maybe you can talk a little bit about what you see out there in the industry as well.
Thanks, Drew. Yeah, the bids are kind of in line with the market. I get this little notification on my screen. My voice isn't coming through. So if that's not coming through, let me know.
We got you.
Yeah, so the bids are, I guess, they're within where the market is. I mean, the estimates are an estimate, so they were tagged a little higher, but that's within the reason. So I think the bids are good. Your contractor is a construction company that's working on Central Bucks West that we're a part of. They've been in business. We are having a little bit of problem at Central Bucks West. It's, we're out there watching it. So when they had some non-conforming work, we had them rip it out, and it's delayed the work a little bit. But We want to make sure that the school district, the Central Bucks, and the community up there gets what they paid for. Granted, they may be a little slow, but they're getting the work done. So I'm not worried about them. I haven't worked with Clipper, so we're waiting to hear a little bit about their experience on mechanical construction from Snyder Hoffman. I've a guy in Cooper from Willow Grove. It's a good company. I have no issues with them at all. And BSI, we're working with over at Pennsbury High School, and I have no issues with them at all. So we got to do a little work on Clipper, make sure Clipper is a decent mechanical contractor, make sure they're good. And we'll let Allison know that once we get that favorable review from Snyder Hoffman.
That's great. Thank you both. Just going back to my question, and I appreciate that you sort of anticipated my next question, which is whether you had experience with these particular contractors. Manager Elliott, the grant money that we have, and compared to what the budget is, can you just remind us all of that as well?
Sure. We have $3.82 million through our federal grant. We have about $900,000 through our state local share account funding, and a $76,000 grant through an energy efficiency grant program. So that gives us it's probably about $4.8 million toward the project cost.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Harmon. And Eric, thank you. You were anticipating my question too. And that is, when I was looking at the bids, frankly, they were surprisingly close. Well, I'm saying surprisingly close. I haven't seen bids like this before that often. So maybe that's not unusual, but we're supposed to pick the lowest responsible bidder. I'm happy to hear that you're familiar with these contractors, you're reviewing them, and we're not just choosing one, particularly, like I said, because the dollars are pretty close. I don't want to pick one that's $50,000 lower and find out that they're not as qualified as the next highest bidder or the next lowest bidder. So I really appreciate your comments there and the work that you're doing to make sure we're getting good contractors. Commissioner Emily Sharami Waltz.
Commissioner Cherico is before me, so I will defer to him first.
Oh, I didn't even say, I'm sorry. Jeff, you're on mute.
I know. Couple questions. We're talking $8.8 million. Deducting $26,000 for cabinets seems like a petty, a petty amount. One, why do cabinets cost $26,000? And two, why are we choosing that out of everything to cut out?
The first part of that, Jeff, I'll take a stab at. There's only 6 cabinets in that little kitchenette in the upper cabinets. I don't know why their deduct was so high where the other bidders were significantly lower. So to me, you can buy the 6 cabinets for maybe $1,200 and put them in later. But I think that's why they took it.
Okay, and so the rest of the proposal or the bid, the numbers for other things seemed to be okay. I mean, why a half dozen overhead cabinets or whatever it is?
Well, I can jump in a little bit. I think one of the things we talked a little bit about as we were reviewing the bids was, one, that number seemed very high, but also as we talked about it, we really didn't think they were all that necessary for our operations and programming. So it was one thing we just didn't feel that we really needed at the end of the day. So looking at some of the other things we felt that they added to the program, this really didn't add to the program. I know it's a very small amount, doesn't save us much, but we just felt that it wasn't a necessity going forward.
Okay. Eric, you made a comment that when Eurig is doing work that is, what did you say, call subpar? Is that what the term you called? Like, that's concerning. Why are we having Why are you recommending that we hire a contractor who is doing subpar work unless you catch them?
Well, it's pure PA prevailing wage low bid. You have to take the lowest bidder. You can try to disqualify them, but it's very hard to do given they've built many jobs across the state of PA. It'll be very hard for you to discredit them. So I don't know that you can just drop them and go to the next lowest bidder. But contractors on occasion, when they pour concrete, in this case, it's what happened over at Central Bucks. It came in under spec. We waited another 30 days for the second test on the sample. It still failed. So you give them a choice. You got to remove it. We can't build on top of it. And that created a little bit of delay. And schools, they have to open on the first day of school, right? You just can't delay it. We have a community center here. I wouldn't want to get delayed, but if something happened, I'm not personally worried that you'll still get the product. We just want to make sure you get what you pay for. And I'm not going to say every construction job goes perfectly. They'll tell you there's some bumps in the road. So we just won't accept substandard work. I can't do it. My dad would come out of his grave and beat me up a little bit.
How much was the next closest bid?
It might be half. You guys have that number, Drew? Like 400,000 maybe?
Yeah, it was open it up.
400,000.
Yeah, I can't remember all the numbers, but it was
Yeah, it's about 400,000.
I mean, I don't know. Your comments about this company leave me less than thrilled. And then we also, yes, I know we're not building a school, we're renovating a school, but this has been closed for years. If they're slow, that is not what we want. We don't want a company that's slow. We don't want a company that is doing subpar work. I don't feel confident in this at all. I think quite the opposite. I'm really concerned by how you express what you said about this company, and the fact that now we should expect that it won't take a year, but it could take maybe a year and a half or 2 years. That's unacceptable. So I think we need to maybe go take a closer look and figure something out, because I'm not sure that I want to vote for this general contractor. My other question on this is, did we look at removing the bottom, the basement? We talked when we first voted on this proposal. We went and voted for and approved the full renovation, whereas some of the other options we had was just to do the social room in the lower level, but leave the rest of it finished but not built out. Have we considered what the cost would be to remove and not to develop the rest of the lower level?
Well, I can say we actually are not fully renovating the whole lower level due to some code compliance issues. The room at the far back under the auditorium, the ceiling height did not meet code, so that is going to be a storage space. So really it's just the kind of like I said, you said the room at the end of the hall that's on the exterior, and the middle room where the elevator will be letting out, that are going to be renovated. So I don't know if there's any real savings there. I think there's some finishes in the storage area that if we removed them from the bid would be about $16,000.
So we're saying we're not. So we're okay, because when we voted for the proposal, I think it was at that time it was 6.7 million or something along those lines, building out the full basement. But now we're saying we're not building out the whole basement, but yet we're looking at 8.8 million.
Well, we are, the basement area in the back that I think you're referring to, like, we are still providing a certain amount of ventilation back there. We're providing lighting. We're remediating the drywall over the years has been damaged. So there's a certain amount of work there that just to stabilize that area that we're performing. And so that's not something that we backed out as an alternate, because we didn't feel that was a responsible way to, in all fairness, it's also not like a major cost center in the project. I think that when we, as we were doing our cost estimates over the various phases, we were looking at things like this with our cost estimator, and it just wasn't shifting the needle for kind of like, we have to do something there. We can't just leave it unventilated, unlit, not addressing moisture in that area. So, we did, as Allison mentioned, there was a little bit of finish deducts that were possibly there. But again, that didn't feel like in the course of the overall budget that it was worth something to compromise here. Because again, we're talking $15,000 to $20,000 of a deduct for flooring, so it just didn't feel like it was worth the quality hit that would come from it.
All right. So appreciate that. So, I guess I'm curious what my other commissioners feel about this. I'm less than thrilled about this. So I'll drop it there, and I guess we can hear from the others and we can circle back.
Thank you, Commissioner Jericho. Commissioner Emily Sheramy Waltz, now your turn.
Thanks. Well, my original comment was going to be that, it felt like a lot of time to get to this point with the scoping of the project and then the back and forth questions. But I was feeling today like, we were going into it with 8.5 million in my head, and the bids came in at 8.8, and given the current economy and sort of like state of the world, I was feeling like that felt really good and really attainable. But I do want to sort of have this conversation more about Jeff's concern about the general contractor, because my understanding is we are required to go for the lowest bidder, but then we did just say that we could disqualify that lowest bidder. So if it is someone that we really don't feel confident working with, that is not going to be like completely on top of this, moving this along after, having some delays to get to this point, I think that we need to iterate on that a little bit and see if that's something that we should talk about.
Do you want me to expand on the contractor?
Yes.
Would this be a good time?
Please.
Yes, please.
So we do have contract protection in there. You have liquidated damages if they're in delay. It's an X amount of dollars from each of the primes per day for substantial completion, and X amount of dollars per day when they don't finish their punch list. So we can hold them to the fire to get it done. We're gonna be out there. I don't want you to think that these guys are the worst contractor. I just wanted to be honest with it that we did have an issue. We catch that issue, and we're out there to make sure that the owner gets the product they pay for. But you do have contract protection in there. In the contract, in the A201, there's a lot of language that will protect the township. It protects the deadlines. Unless if we have an act of God, or something like that, they can't just extend the timeline. You would have to accept it if you wanted to, and all the contractors would have to accept it as well. But I just want you to they had a delay at that school, but we have to make sure the school is done right. It has to be done right. Same thing with the community center. We just have a little bit more flexibility with the community center. Maybe I shouldn't have said that to you, but we do because I shouldn't. I'm sorry, Jeff. That's not.
We don't have flexibility.
Well, the school districts have to open. You got all these parents with kids going to school. You just can't. That can't be an issue.
Understood.
So on that particular job, we found solutions to keep the kids in and move them around the school, and worked with the school administration, did all that. Community center, we'd have to deal with that if for some reason we have a delay. But I think with 13 months that we put into this thing, it's more than enough to do this job. So I don't want you to think that you need to chuck them, to remove your rig. I think they're fine. If you have a reason to remove them, albeit go ahead and do it. I'm not sure who the second low bidder was, but I'm confident we can get this done with this contractor. We're just going to make sure they do it right. Anyways.
Thank you for that additional explanation. Commissioner Stein.
Okay, that goes right into my question. Can someone lay out for me what is happening on our end for oversight of these contractors? So is this part of the KCBA and revision contract that we have? Okay, somebody
Yes.
could spell that out.
Go ahead, Drew or
Yeah,
Eric.
So our design team does have a full service construction administration scope on the project. And this is kind of along the lines of, the AIA has some standard language around construction administration. That's the kind of contract that we have signed with Cheltenham Township. And what that means is we're going to be regularly on site. The design team will be on site. I believe every week we have in our scope. So we'll be making site visits every week. It's also like on my way to work. So like there may be I don't know if I can just like unofficially drop in. Hello, everybody. Yeah, so we have like official weekly site visits where we'll be observing construction, observation, and walking the site. Talking to the contractors. We will be reviewing contractor submittals. So, we have, if any of you have gone through the painstaking task of reading the project specifications, we have, 1,000+ pages of specifications of products and materials and equipment that go into the project. And so the contractors will be submitting to us to say, here's the light fixture that we propose in this location because this is what you told us to put in, and we say check, correct, or nope, that's the wrong product. So like that's part of the work of the architect and design team during construction. There are always questions during construction, right? It is inevitable. Contractors will have questions, especially on an existing building, because there's just existing conditions that have been concealed that won't come up until we get into it. They will ask questions. They'll have requests for information. We'll provide answers. We'll address those field conditions that come up. We'll review any sort of all the pay applications with these contractors. I'll say, hey, this is how much money you owe us for the month of November, and it's this, and this, and we'll verify that and make a recommendation to sign off on those pay applications. Eric mentioned a punch list at the very end of the project. We go through and look at every scope of work. There's a lot of like rolling punch listing for things that get concealed and covered up over the course of the project. But at the very end, we go through and do a formal punch list and say, yes, this work is completed. What have I missed here?
I was going to say I could jump in a little bit. So we are also working with Eric and his team at KCBA to add a little extra belts and suspenders to that protection throughout the process. We're kind of putting the finishing touches on the proposal. It's called a buyer's or owner's representative, and they're actually probably on site probably more than the architects. One of the big reasons why we've asked Eric and his team to serve in this role is because of the federal grants. They require us to go under Davis-Bacon wages, and states are under the prevailing wage, which requires weekly payroll certifications, and township staff has never had to do that. And it's a very complicated process to make sure that all the contractors and employees under those contractors are getting paid according to the federal and state wages, and that takes a little bit of extra work that we're not prepared to do. And Eric and his team have a lot of experience in that, so that'll have them out on site probably about 30 hours a week out there. So Eric, I don't know if you want to be able to provide a little bit more information on what that role is.
Yeah, we're going to have somebody on site every day of the week, and they'll be a part of the GC's trail. They'll have a little office in there, so they'll be able to be in there, and obviously the on-site supervision, like of the roofing, the exterior walls assemblies, things that are critical, HVAC, for the building. We'll have on-site representation there to make sure it's done, and if it's not done, put the contractors on notice. Drew's not going to sign an application for payment for work that's not done right. And that's, again, where's those, belts and suspenders and double checking everything that's kind of what we got to do. So yeah, we'll be on site. We'll have somebody on site every day. And I too live I'm a couple of miles down the road. So I'll generally stop by, like I like to get in there at, around 6 in the morning and just see what the issues are for the day, and let the day go. And then I'll get a phone call, but it's always nice to check in with the GCs, or at least there's going to be 4 superintendents because there's 4 primes. Just check in, make sure there isn't any issues. If there is, get the people that need to fix it or make a design edit or change or a quick sketch. Get everybody together and get it going. And you find out if you do it first thing in the morning, everybody's happy, especially the contractors, because their team shows up around 7. At
Yeah,
least
and
the workers do. The superintendents will be there early. They can't work until 7, but they'll be there earlier just to get ready for the day.
yeah, and additionally, in addition to Eric and Drew and their teams, township staff will also be pretty available on the site to check in and make sure that things are kind of going the right way and answer questions. So there aren't a lot of holdups as well.
Yeah, Allison, we appreciate the work the township staff is doing, but frankly, the comfort that we, the commissioners and the township, should have here is that we're hiring outside professionals, Drew and Eric and their firms, to supervise this, to manage this, to be the administrators of this, the contract administrators, project managers, I think is the term I'm looking for this project, and to take it all along the way and to keep us informed of any issues. So I know that gives me comfort. Commissioner Arman?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So Drew and Eric, thank you for explaining sort of the oversight process. And I agree, we need an owner's representative. We need someone managing the project. We need someone ensuring that the benchmarks are being met and that we are enforcing the contract. There's been some chatter in the side chat about contract protections. I think it was answered, but just to be clear, there are contract protections. That's your job to ensure that they're enforced. Is that a fair comment?
Yes.
Okay. So I appreciate that. And Eric, to your comment specifically about Eurig, I appreciate you giving us sort of the heads up that, hey, you've had some issues, right? And you've had to address them. And I think that's responsible, and I appreciate that. But that understandably is going to give us some apprehension, right? So I think what we need to hear from you both is that, notwithstanding those hiccups that you've experienced, and notwithstanding all the oversight that you're going to endeavor over the course of this project, that you still recommend this contractor as a responsible low bidder and not one that we should look to either disqualify or find a more responsible or a better responsible low bidder. So can you give us that recommendation so that we can, bring this to a vote? Because if you're not recommending them because of your experience, I think we need to know that. If you're just warning us that, hey, we've had some issues, I think we appreciate that. We like full disclosure, but I think we need to hear a recommendation from you both.
Thanks, Matt. Look, there's hundreds and thousands of things that go on during construction. I'm just talking about one thing that went wrong on a particular school. I just wanted to be upfront because we saw it. I have no issue with your reconstruction. We're going to have a representation. The owner's going to have representation there. I have no issues working with them. I probably should have been more careful with my words. I just wanted to be upfront. But they can build. They've been building in PA. I have no issues working with them. Just that I just wanted to let you know we did have a hiccup out there, but it didn't give the owner a bad project. It's still open.
So look, as our expert here, we have 4 contractors that are on this list. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have the low bidders. So we have from Manager Elliott the recommendation. Do you agree with that recommendation?
I do.
Well, I think that we still, Eric, to your point earlier,
Clipper. Clipper's the one we got to check. Yeah,
Clipper's the one that we're still waiting on feedback from Snyder Hoffman, who are the systems engineers on the project. We're still waiting for the feedback from them on that. But I will say, I have not worked with Eurig, and I defer to Eric's expertise in working with them. But what I will say that he said that I think is worth noting here is that the concrete didn't pass the test. and the, KCBA flagged it and said, it's, you got to take this out. And no contractor's ever going to want to take the concrete out, right? But Eric said they ultimately did. So, I think that like the resolution is the correct resolution that they ended up doing. And so like in hearing, because we've had this conversation already, and it's never like a contractor always wants to try to find the solutions to avoid having to remove concrete because that is a really tough thing to do. But the fact stands they did in the end do the right thing. So, I think that that's worth noting here.
Thank you.
And they did it over a weekend. And we had, we were out there over a weekend, watching them pull it out and put it back in. But anyways, I just wanted to be upfront because I didn't want to tell you they didn't have it. They were perfect because you might read about something somewhere and hey, why didn't you tell me about it? So I just want to make sure I was upfront about it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I appreciate that disclosure, that transparency. But what I needed from you as our expert, right? I'm not an expert, is for you to say, notwithstanding that hiccup, I recommend them, and I think you gave us that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to also add to that, you guys have protection in the event that these contractors do delay. We have liquidated damages. For some reason, if for some reason they damage or harm the grant, the township will be fully funded by the contractor for that failure. So I guess it was Justin. Justin's your attorney. He's got some pretty sharp language in there to protect the township, at a much higher level than just liquidated damages. So I just wanted to, because we went through that with him. So I just wanted to throw that out there because, you want to read 1,000 pages of specs, it'll probably put you to sleep, but there's a lot of good stuff in there.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioner Cherico.
Yeah, have they done historic properties, have they renovated old properties like this before? Do they have a history of this?
I wouldn't say that they specialize in historic rehabs, but the work that we're working with them is in older facilities. It's a delicate item, so I'm comfortable with their skill set to do the job.
And do we have them? And we're going to take a bond out to cover the delta. Is that the plan?
You have bonds. Each contractor has to have their bonds. They have payment.
No, I mean
performance.
how are we paying the $4 million? How are we paying the $4 million?
I'm sorry.
Bond.
Right.
Good discussion, good feedback. And as Commissioner Arman said, we appreciate the extra information, the full information. We like to hear that, even if it generates concerns and further questions. Better that we have that discussion up front than later on, just as you said, Eric, somebody comes back to you and says, I just read something or somebody just told me about this, and how come we weren't informed? Information is always a tricky thing because it does raise additional questions. But thank you for the work that you've done and the discussion. Any further questions? Okay, so we had. Are we voting on this pending? Does this get moved to the next week's meeting? So, are we voting on it pending their further clarification on the Cooper contractor, or are we just going to wait till next week?
I think if the committee feels comfortable having a recommendation for approval of the low apparent bidders in each of the contracts, subject to further due diligence, which we hope to have done by then.
Okay, I think we're going to be comfortable with that, but I'll find out in a second. So I'll make the motion to approve the staff's recommendation for the 4 low bidders, subject to further review or understanding, particularly on the I guess it's the mechanical Cooper contractors. Everybody okay with that? All those in favor of that recommendation towards next week's meeting, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
And we all know that next week we can ask the same questions or new questions or go through this again. So, any other new business for the Finance Committee? Not seeing any. We are up to Citizens Forum for the Finance Committee. Are there any citizens who would like to make comments and speak for 3 minutes? Mr. Peterson, you're up first.
Yes, hi. Thank you very much. My name is Tom Peterson. I live in the Roland Park area. And as I stated in comments to the Public Works meeting a few days ago, I strongly urge the commissioners to cancel the ground lease that authorizes the design and construction of a pool facility that will replace the Conklin pool. I have a number of reasons for this. One is that it's a no-bid contract. Number two is that there's a lack of community input or support for this Melrose Enclave pool. Number three, the proposed location is within a new high-end development behind a shopping center. It will not be a welcoming location for the community. Number four is a much smaller footprint than the current Conklin pool grounds. Number five, there's a very quick turnaround required by the ground lease so that the ground lease allows for the construction documents to be issued within 30 days, and then the township has only 14 days for an up or down vote on the proposed design. Number six, there's been a severe lack of public transparency with the ultimate use of this parcel of land that was gifted to the township. Number seven, this is going to result in the loss of more township green space by shutting down the Conklin pool. And number eight, the cost to provide upgrades of the current pool must be lower than 4.5 million, especially with creative solutions and competitive bidding on renovation or upgrade to the Conklin pool. We, as you know, we've had a petition circulating. We've received hundreds of signatures in just a few days' time in opposition to what you're doing. So the statement that's been made in the past, I think it was at the Public Works meeting, that this is just a small group of people is completely false. We have hundreds of people that are opposed to what you folks are doing. Also, I think it's unconscionable to send around a letter trying to convince people not to sign this petition until some frequently asked questions document is going to be issued apparently tomorrow. I do not think it's fair at all to try to have letters from the commissioners asking people not to sign a petition. And I want to ask one direct question, and I would like an answer. Why do you feel it's appropriate to have a no bid contract for this pool?
Okay, at this point, I'm going to thank you for your comments. As was stated earlier, there is a memo that's going out tonight or tomorrow morning. I think it's actually 7 pages, which we are hopeful will address many of the questions and concerns of residents.
All right, so you're not prepared to answer a question about why this is a no bid contract. We have asked this question numerous times.
Mr. Peterson, as you know, this is also a part of litigation right now. So we can't comment. So I appreciate your thoughts, but we can't comment on things that are part of litigation, and I know you understand that. So I appreciate it.
But you're issuing a 7-page document tomorrow. That's a comment, isn't it? Okay, thank you.
Any other citizens for Citizens Forum for the Finance Committee? I'm not seeing any. I'm going to thank everyone for their participation this evening and make a motion to adjourn the Finance Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.